Happy week 4, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Start Sit live stream. We get to all your questions, give you the whys. You can make your best lineup decision. When we get closer to the kill time, which is 15 minutes before kickoff, about 30 minutes before that, we'll do rapid fire. You'll have heard about most of the players. This may be useful for even DFS players or prop bettors, because I'll go through a lot of detail on players. Hopefully it helps everybody out. Please don't ask your question more than once. I will get to you. Sometimes there could be 100+ questions in there, maybe more. So yours may not be for quite a while, depending when you ask it. So again, just be patient. Appreciate you. If you could like and subscribe to the show, it'd be greatly appreciated as well. Let's get to some questions here. All right, see what we got here. We got Johnny first, full PPR, Kamara or Hubbard at running back. Yeah, it's a tough one. Hubbard has a pretty easy matchup. Kamara's down 2 interior linemen. Atlanta's a good run defense. In this case, could Kamara go off? Yes. Could Hubbard go off? Yes. I think you go with the better player in this situation. They probably could dump a lot of screens to Kamara in this game, because if the line is bad enough, Derek Carr's going to have to do something. My guess is it could be a heavy screen game. I could totally get the case for starting Hubbard. Hubbard would seem to have a high floor. A lot could go well. The matchup couldn't be better against Cincinnati. That said, I have Hubbard as my running back 17. I've got Kamara as my running back 7, and that's enough for me to say I'm going to go with Kamara, because I think the screen pass will be there. And again, Alvin Kamara can make things happen in a bad situation. And you got Deontay Johnson, Deebo Samuel, Mooney, or Shakir at flex. I think your safest floor play is Deontay Johnson. We saw last week with a professional quarterback. He catches a lot of passes. No Adam Thielen. Deebo Samuel's your boom bust play. We're not quite sure if he is 100%, but it's very hard to sit Deebo Samuel because he's a superstar and they're playing New England. But I don't think the matchups worry. They're even a Christian Gonzalez on him. It's not the type of player. He's more of a run after the catch guy, and that's just a completely different animal. So I think if you need to be super safe and you're worried about Deebo Samuel not being 100%, you go with Johnson. But I just find it really hard to sit Deebo Samuel because of the damage he could do. And we saw in the first 2 games, he was heavily used as a runner and a receiver. We just don't know if that's going to be his workload here. So again, it's your choice of safe or risk there. Trey, more in you as well. You have Higgins, Hubbard, Ford, Kirk, and Akers. So Higgins saw 90% of the snaps last week, and I have to think that it was like an acclimation week in some ways. So I have to think it's a full go here. And I think that his matchup is Carolina, there's not really a problem there. I think J.C. Horn would probably see more snaps on Chase than on Higgins. It could bounce either way, but Higgins could win in those matchups in any case. And I think this is a higher scoring game. Hubbard is a good floor and ceiling play. I think you got to play him for that. Of the other 3, I'd be most likely to trust Christian Kirk after they got him going last week. And in the Houston matchup, he'll avoid Derek Stingley, and that's a good potential opportunity there. I mean, look, if the Akers thing, he played less snaps than Ogunbowale last week. If you go with Akers, it's in the hopes that Houston blows out Jacksonville, and then he gets a lot of carries late to salt the game away, and there's merit there. Ford hasn't really been an upside play. So again, I would go Higgins, Hubbard, and Kirk. But if you really think that Houston's going to blow out Jacksonville, you can make a case for Akers. Ethan warned you as well. You need a running back and a flex. Zamir White, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Ladd McConkey, Jacoby Myers. Zamir White has no blocking. It's just been dreadful, and that's very problematic. So I'm a little bit concerned about Zamir White here. Again, Madison seeing the goal line work, which that cripples him even further. Chase Brown is still not seeing nearly enough of the work. That's been a problem. And so all that said, we have to worry about how much work he gets and what he does with that very limited opportunity. So I'm concerned there. And then Bucky Irving apparently has a hamstring. So now we're worried about, is he getting that 10 touches per game? McConkey getting a few targets, not doing much with them. I think Myers is probably a player you're going to look at here. Cleveland is not a good matchup, but they're going to have to throw the ball somewhere. I think he gets you 6 catches, not a lot of yards. So I'd be inclined to go with Myers as my flex. And then the running back, I'm going to give Brown the edge because of the easy matchup, because Irving will have similar touches. White has just been a disaster. So that's the way I'll go with that. Ethan, Kirk, Quentin Johnson, or Shakir. Shakir and Kirk are close. Quentin Johnson, I'm worried about the limitation of the injury. And also, Johnson's facing a very good pass defense this week, so I don't like that matchup for him. Kirk, certainly, again, he'll avoid Derek Stingley, as I said. Shakir also, though, Shakir will probably see some of Marlon Humphrey. Humphrey will sometimes move around where he's at, but Shakir sees a lot of slot. So I think that's really tight between those two. Shakir's been more consistent. Kirk got going last week. It really is a coin flip between the two. I do think that Christian Kirk did get enough going last week. I'm going to give Kirk the slight edge. If your gut says Shakir, go with it because he has been playing well. Ertz or Schultz. I normally would worry about Schultz because when they have all three of their receivers, then I don't think there's many targets, but Dell's out. So I do think there's more opportunity for Schultz to see some targets here. Ertz has had a good floor. So I think Ertz has been just super safe in Arizona. It's not a bad matchup. And then when we look at Dalton Schultz, though, I do think Schultz could have a game here, but I think Ertz's floor is safer. So if you want the safe play, it's Ertz. I think Schultz is the week where he could get, one play that gets some yards after the catch, one play near the red zone, but he's boom or bust in that case. So I think Ertz is safer, but Schultz does have some potential. So if you want to swing for a little bit more, but risk, maybe potentially lower volume, it would be Schultz, but Ertz is safer. All right, PPR, Flowers or McLaurin. So the slot corner for Buffalo is out. Flowers doesn't always play in the slot, but he'll move inside quite a bit. So I do think he could see a good number of receptions in this game. Attacking the outsides hasn't always been great business against Buffalo. McLaurin, we had the two horrible games. Then we had the game against Cincy where Cincy can't cover and they have no safety play. So he gets over the top twice for big plays. So look, consider McLaurin boom bust. The first 2 weeks were not a mirage. That's what I kind of expected that offense to be. Last week it was beautiful. I think Flowers is just way safer. And I think Flowers should have a reasonable floor in this game. There should be some scoring in this Buffalo-Baltimore game. And I think that Buffalo, who doesn't normally worry about the run too much, I think they're going to have to be worried about it a little bit. So I think we got to look at that and say maybe Flowers is a safer play. That said, Richard, London or Higgins? London, I think, is like 28% of the time he moves into the slot. I don't like the outside matchup when he's on Lattimore. That's kind of like a good matchup for Lattimore, the physical receiver versus physical corner. Higgins didn't get a lot done last week, so there's that. And he did have a 90% snap share. But Higgins had 6 targets, caught 3 for 39. The matchup is beautiful. I'd be inclined to give Higgins the edge here in his second game. London's matchup is not fantastic. So I'd give Higgins a slight edge. I don't know that one has more upside than the other. All right, next question. Half PPR, 2 of 4. Some of Tyreek, Jaden Reed, Terry McLaurin, Shaheed. So you need 2 of the 4 there. Jaden Reed with Love back. Again, he sees a lot of gadgety, which is good. It's good gadgety stuff that gets him in space. I think he's a pretty safe play here. And I think I'm going to look, Shaheed is going to need a lot to go his way, but I'm really worried about the interior line, McCoy and Ruiz missing for New Orleans. Even though Atlanta doesn't get a lot of pressure, they really don't have much of an offensive line left. So the downfield shots would be tough to come by. McLaurin, like we said a minute ago, is kind of boom or bust. So I think Hill is going to get some targets, and he's going to have not a great floor, but have some floor. So Reed for sure. Hill is kind of your floor because he could break a play on anything. And I think, well, Hill and McLaurin are both boom bust. So I would just prefer Hill because they should another week into this without Tua thing find creative ways to get him the ball. So it's close on that one. But I'm going to go Reed and Hill, and then you got Flowers or Reed. I'm going to go Reed here. I'm going to go with the better player, and it's close because they both should be involved enough. But and you'd think the Minnesota matchup's bad, but Reed, again, the way they use him, and they've seen his defense twice last year, a little different personnel. I'm going to give Reed the edge there. Rodney, start 1. Shaheed, Keenan Allen, Jawan Jennings, Mooney. So with Kittle back and Debo back, Jennings goes back to a two-target guy probably. So I don't know that you could play him over this group. Mooney's been coming on for sure, and Mooney they move him in a slot about 30 something percent of the time, maybe 35. So that gets him away from those outside corners. So Mooney's been and he's been playing well. Shahid, like I said earlier, that interior offensive line, the two injuries, it's going to be a problem getting pushing the ball downfield. Keenan Allen coming back from an injury. I don't know what his full like status is, so I think there's risk. Allen probably has the highest upside of this group because if he is healthy, he was getting targets in week one. So, but there could be risk because of the heel injury and his age. So he's the risky one. Mooney, believe it or not, is probably the safer play of these groups. So because Mooney has 7 and 8 targets in the last 2 weeks. So I'd say Mooney's the safest play, and Allen is more of your boom bust. But if he is healthy, he could have a game here because the Rams really can't deal with him. Henry, 2 full PPR. Garrett Wilson, Cam Akers, Christian Kirk, or Olave. You know what? Apparently the word is Olave's going to go, and he traveled with the team yesterday. If he's on the field, I'm gonna tend to trust him. Garrett Wilson might see some of Patrick Surtain, but I think he still has a floor, and I think that floor is similar to Christian Kirk's. Akers, like I said, another question a minute ago. If you think that Houston's going to blow out Jacksonville and he's going to get a bunch of late carries, that's fine. But he played less snaps than Dario Gunbowale last week. So Cam Akers, I said last week, if he gets a touchdown and falls in the end zone, that might be it, and that's about all he did because he is just simply not good. So I'm going to go with Wilson and Olave on that one. If you're nervous about Olave, about the injury and the possible setback, then just slide Kirk in there. It's a good option. So it's not one to worry about. You have a good option. So nothing there. Any other news? Trent Williams likely to play. And like Joe Mixon, if you didn't hear it this morning, Mixon, according to Ian Rappaport, he believes, whatever that means, Mixon has an uphill climb to play this week. So understand that. Dr. Oberto, need 2 in the flex, half PPR. Kenneth Walker, Darnell Mooney, Rashid Shaheed. So Walker is off the injury report, which is good. It's a nasty matchup, but he should get volume. The spread offense they're running should help him find a little bit of opportunity. It's going to be hard to sit Kenneth Walker at this point, even though it's a nasty matchup. And I'm going to give Mooney the edge over Shaheed. You heard me mention the 2 injuries in the interior line for the Saints worry me because if Carr doesn't have time, pushing it downfield is going to be really, really tough. Shaheed always could make a big play. He always could do that. That's always on the table. He can get a 70-yard touchdown at the drop of a hat. If he doesn't get that, it'd be a real lean game like last week. Delroy, Richardson, or Goff. Since Goff has not been producing at all, Richardson either, I'm almost inclined to go with Richardson here, even in a tough matchup, because if he gets going on the ground, that would work. I think the Seattle matchup for Goff, I think that the Seattle has a bunch of their front 7 out, and I think this is a game where they run the ball, shorten the game, and control on the ground. I'm going to give Richardson the edge here for that reason. I think it's a big run game for Detroit. That's my rationale there. Delroy, Fryermuth, Gesicki, or Elijah Higgins. Fryermuth is getting 4 catches every week, about 30 yards. And this year's the way the tight ends are playing, getting that 7 points, there's value in that. And so Fryermuth's your safe floor play. Gesicki's going to either need a big play or a touchdown because he's playing less than half of the snaps. The targets are okay. He's getting some targets. But with Yoshi Voss coming on too, that kind of cuts in a little bit. So Gesicki's your boom bust guy. Fryermuth's your floor play. If you didn't have those 2 options, Higgins would be somebody to consider. I just think that Higgins may not be a priority in the game plan. I think Michael Wilson on the outside sees a little more work with Harrison and James Conner this week. So I would leave him out, but not that Higgins can't do it, but you have 2 options that are fairly established. George, good morning. Full PPR, Olave, Myers, or Kirk need 1. So, yeah, somebody had a similar question a minute ago. I'm starting Olave if it's me because if he's on the field, I'm trusting that he's healthy enough to play. But if you are worried at all about setback, Kirk is a very good fallback option. He got back on the map last week. We know going 2 years back, he is an important part of that offense. So, and there's nothing scary about the matchup with Houston in the slot because Kirk runs a lot of slot. So if you're not cool with Olave's being not 100%, then it'd be Kirk. And then Connor, Stevenson, Najee, or Mixon. Connor and Stevenson both have really good matchups this week. So that's a route I'm going on that one. New England will run the ball. The offensive line's not good, but we've seen that they can get it done. And San Francisco just is not a good run defense right now. I know Fred Warner at the second level is fine, but in Hargraves, I thought he's more of a pass rusher anyway. But still, they really are bad. So I go with Connor and Stevenson here. Najee's close. Najee, if you don't like Stevenson in this matchup, if you think they fall behind and he maybe doesn't see the volume, Najee has a great match because Indy's down to Forrest Buckner. I'm leaving Mixon out because of the injury. Connor for sure. Stevenson and Najee are close. I give Stevenson a slight edge, but again, if you are worried about Stevenson with San Francisco, again, not a very good matchup. I mean, not a bad matchup. It used to be not bad this year. Then you could consider Najee in that one. Bialy, Geno or Love. Detroit plays a lot of man coverage, and that's perfect for Smith and Jigba and Metcalf, and Geno lets it rip. Now the offensive line's not great. It's really Aiden Hutchinson they got to worry about because the other edge rusher Davenport's done for the year. I think Geno's a high floor player. Love is interesting because if he doesn't have the mobility, the way to beat Minnesota is with second reaction throws. And if he doesn't have that mobility, those second reaction throws won't be there. I consider Love boom or bust for that reason, because if he moves better than we hope, now all of a sudden he can really take that defense, because Minnesota, that's where they break down the most likely. Geno is safer this week. Geno should have a relatively good floor in what should be a shootout. Jay Red, morning to you as well. Burrow or Murray? I got Murray as a top 4 quarterback, and I'm very strong with that. They're playing Washington. Washington's horrible on defense. James Conner will get his on the ground, but it won't be all James Conner. And Burrow might have another great matchup, and Burrow could go off. But Murray's running like for big yardage every week, and that mobile quarterback. And if that game does shoot out, like if let's say Burrow and Cincinnati somehow they shut down Andy Dalton, they get a lead, might not throw as much. I'm going to give Murray the edge here because of the running ability. And then PPR, you have 3 tight ends. Ferguson, who played Thursday night, Goddard and Komet. Should you keep all 3 or drop one for Lockett or Quentin Johnston? Well, yeah, if you got 3 tight ends and you got one for bye weeks, and there's no reason to keep Komet. The target share won't be there week to week. When the Bears don't see pressure, Komet should see some work. But remember, Keenan Allen's coming back, and that's going to put a ding into those possession targets. So I would let Komet go. You know what? I would probably take the flyer on Quentin Johnston. They get the bye next week, and then Herbert, if he makes it through the game well today, then after the bye, he should be good. And Johnson was showing signs of life. Lockett's going to be real up and down. He's aging, and it's kind of clear he's like the 3 in that offense. Some weeks he'll see targets, but I'd rather take the flyer on Johnston. Myers or Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, Myers is in a better situation now. I don't like the Cleveland matchup. They got 3 good corners. They're going to bring some pass rush. Raiders are decent enough in protection, but he will see targets. So there's going to be that. Brian Thomas Jr., I do have a little bit of concern for Thomas Jr. this week against Houston. When he sees Derek Stingley, I think that's a mismatch. Stingley could probably slow him down. I don't know that he's shadowing, so Thomas could get loose. Thomas is seeing some targets for you, 9 last week, but he only had 4 in the 2 prior weeks. So that gives me a little bit of pause. I think Myers is your floor play. I think he has a very good floor. But I do think Brian Thomas is more of your boom bust because he has gotten in the end zone already. He has a big catch on the season. So there's a little bit more gas there, but it's more boom or bust. If you want the safe play, it's Myers. Jeff, need a quarterback, Dalton, Huntley, or Lawrence. I'm probably going with Dalton here. It's tough to go with him twice because when he has a good game, the implosion's coming soon. But Cincinnati is just so bad. Their 2 interior defensive linemen are missing. The Trey Hendricks is the only pass rusher. The Carolina line is actually not bad. And I do think Cincinnati scores a lot of points. So I think there could be garbage time here. Huntley, he was very good in 2021. Film was out his last couple games, not so good. 2022, film out, not so good. So he has weapons, but he's learning the offense. I have no idea if he knows, he has no timing with the receivers. So, and Lawrence, good luck with him right now, right? He is so deep a quarterback, like almost quarterback 3. I mean, I think he's like almost like a borderline quarterback 24 guy. I'm going to give Dalton the edge here. Look, Lawrence doesn't look good, and Lawrence does not look good. And Houston could make his life a little bit difficult. So, give me Dalton there. George, full PPR. Shakir or Garrett Wilson. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Wilson will see his share of Sertan, but he's getting targets. And it really looked Aaron Rodgers. I thought it meant something last week when you saw how happy that Rodgers was when Wilson scored. He went and hugged him and he was smiling. I think he really wants to get this kid the ball. And Shakir is a good floor play and he has a chance of scoring. I'm going to go with the superstar in this one here. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson. And two running backs, Mason, Aaron Jones. Oh man, that's a good problem to have. Connor will be used as a receiver when they need him with Kyler Murray, and there's merit to that. Aaron Jones is definitely being used as a receiver in this offense. I love the revenge narrative here that Green Bay just let him walk for Josh Jacobs. Oof. So I think it's narrative, right? I'm probably sitting Mason here. Mason has gotten a little less productive each week, and so there's that. So the New England matchup, probably not the best matchup in the world. Oh, I got a super chat question. I'm going to take that in a second here. So yeah, we're going to go with Aaron Jones and Connor there. And then I'm going to come back to Martin. All right, I got a super chat. Scott's in the house. Hey, Scott, Zach Moss or Debo? So yeah, you saw Zach Moss last week. He took good advantage of teams just dropping coverage way deep, and Cincinnati was smart enough to hand the ball off when Washington was in a deep shell. And they say, take the free yards, and he did. 12 carries, 58 yards, and a touchdown. He caught 5 passes. I don't know if Carolina defensively is going to put up any resistance, and the passing game did get uncorked. They probably want to get T. Higgins back. It's hard to sit Debo here. If you're worried about Debo's injury, then I get it. And you might say, yeah, I'm going to sit down Debo. But Debo was used as a runner. He was used as a receiver. He can make a big play. Am I excited about the New England matchup? No, but it's not like, Christian Gonzalez is going to line up on him because Debo's not that player. He's a space player. So it's not like he's like a traditional outside receiver. So the matchup doesn't scare me at all. I'm going to give Debo the edge here because of the potential for a big play. But if you're nervous about re-injury for Debo, which we don't know, then you could pivot to Moss. But I think last week was as good as it gets for Moss. That was a lot of touches, 17. But I think they're so desperate for a win. I think they want to get the win through their passing attack. All right, let's go back to I got Martin coming up here. Let me see if I got two. Let's see here. Make sure I get all these questions here. Give me a second here. Okay, there we go. All right, Martin. Richardson or Fields? Since Fields has not been getting much done on the ground, it kind of loses some of the luster of his potential upside. Richardson's been terrible. There's no question. Obviously, Richardson in that same game has a bad matchup against the Steelers defense. Fields has a little better of a matchup. I'm going to give Richardson the edge here because they're more likely to utilize his weapons a bit more. So but it's slight. I mean, Richardson's not playing well, but I'm going to give him the slight edge in this one because I think it's more likely than Fields he gets going. He's running. And Kirk or Odunze, now that we have Keenan Allen back, the targets could go down a little bit. Also, I had our weather guy on, Dennis Michelson, meteorologist, yesterday. He was talking about potential for wind in Chicago, and it could really slow down the passing attack. I'm going to give Kirk the edge there on that. I got another super chat question from OG. I got to come back to Jeff Marcus after that. OG Bobby. All right. Morning to you is Uncle Jim. Nice. You need 2 of 3. Charbonnet, Bucky, Irving, or Swift. Oh my God. You're in a bad spot here. Swift just can't run. Swift has never had second level vision. Now he doesn't have an interior line. So getting to the first level is a problem. The Rams are not a bad matchup, but I think Roshan Johnson may have done enough last week to maybe move past him. So Bucky Irving, look, if he's active, he's getting his 10 touches. I'm nervous about his hamstring as well, but you almost got to play him, in this scenario. So there's that. And matchup against Philadelphia, it's not great, but it's not terrible. And then Charbonnet, he's going to be back to like a 7-8 touch role, and they're playing the Lions, who are death. Swift has gotten some targets. So I have to go back. I have to leave Charbonnet out because with Walker there, and it's a death matchup. It's going to be hard to trust Charbonnet there. So I'm going to go Irving and Swift. It's a great question. And then Scott's got a super chat question as well. Richardson, Darnold, or Goff? Yeah, you should be worried about Richardson. It's just, could he get it going? Yes, but it's been like a good 3 weeks, and we haven't seen. He's throwing all the passes at the same speed. He's throwing these like short passes, like at 50 miles an hour. It's like, oh my god, what are you doing, dude? It's not good. Goff, I think they're going to run because 4 injuries on the front seven of Seattle, and I know Frank Ragnow, the center's out, but I think running the ball against that defense is probably the smartest way to go. I'm going to go with Darnold here. The yardage hasn't been great in 2 out of 3 games, but the Packers are not a shutdown defense. And Jair Alexander always says, "Oh, I shut down Justin Jefferson." Whatever, they use cloud coverage, but it's a different coach. And so I don't know if that's the case here. I'm gonna go with Darnold here. Believe that or not, man. But you drafted the other two, and Darnold was the afterthought. But I think Darnold has the best floor of the three. Who has the biggest upside of the three? It's Goff. He hasn't done anything yet, but Goff, if this game shoots out, he could have that game. Um, but that said, your safest play is Darnold, and I'd probably just go that route. All right, let's see what we got question wise here. We had Jeff's question next. All right, let me check. Chris Olave, Nick Underhill of New Orleans. Football reports Chris Olave will be active against the Falcons. I am personally starting him in my lineups. I'm in deeper league, so my options if Olave's out, they fall down to players like Ray McLeod. So, but if you have an option where you have a strong player like a Jackson Smith and Jigba or something like that, who might be borderline starter on your team, you could go that route of starting a player like that. But you might be worried that Olave is, a setback. But the fact that they flew him out, they got to be fairly confident about him. So again, I am starting Olave in my leagues where I have him. So there's that. All right. Let's see. Good on injury news for right now. All right. Let's get back to the questions here. Jeff, Jennings, Ridley, Brian Thomas Jr. So Ridley this week, they're playing Miami. And even when Jalen Ramsey's playing, it hasn't been like anything crazy this year. So Ridley won't see him full time anyway. Ridley did lose a lot of targets last week to DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins had 7 targets. Ridley only had 3. So there's that. Brian Thomas talked about him earlier. A little more boomer bust to him. He had the 9 target game last week, but he only had 4 in the prior 2 games. And then I think Jennings just goes back to his normal role because Debo's back, Kittle's back. So Jennings is one of the best blocking receivers in the NFL, and he gets a couple targets. I just don't think it's more than 3 targets, so I got to rule him out. I'm going to give Brian Thomas a slight edge over Ridley here, and I'll probably just call that one. But I think Thomas is because of the Hopkins problem for Ridley. I think that one's a little bit of a problem. Whereas Brian Thomas, at least we did see a good set of targets last week. So I'm going to give Thomas a slight edge. All right, next one, terminal sarcasm. All right, more in you as well. 0-3, need to win. Yeah, you do. Sit 1. Akers, Brian Robinson, or Dobbins. We're going to sit Akers. Here's your deal on Akers. If you think that Jacksonville is going to get blown out by Houston, then there's a chance where Akers grinds out the clock late and he gets something. But otherwise, and Dobbins doesn't have a good matchup, and his offensive line, you're missing both tackles. I think he gets 4 catches in this game, and I think that Dobbins has the ability to have a higher floor for that reason. I mean, can Akers fall in the end zone? Yes, he did last week. If you think that's going to be a blowout, then Akers might be your choice. Otherwise, I'm going with Dobbins. Brian Robinson is a great matchup and no Austin Eckler. So I think Robinson is a great play this week here. See if I got another super chat question here. Got OG Bobby back. Good. You have Juwan Jennings, can pick up one of the following of waivers. Addison McConkey. I am definitely going with Addison here. That passing game is working, and we even saw Jalen Naylor, play well enough. And Addison's their clear number 2. Addison is not a star, but he's a borderline very, very good player. And of course, he's never going to see the big coverage with JJ on the other side. So I would love to pick up Addison there for them. I think that'd be your great pickup there. All right, see if I can find where I left off the question wise. All right, here you go. All right, you got Martin next. ETN, Brian Robinson, DK Flowers need a running back. I like DK here. The lot of man coverage by the Lions, and that's a perfect fit for DK Metcalf. I like Brian Robinson second. Again, with no Austin Eckler, and he's going to get a little extra work. Arizona, there's nothing scary about that matchup at all. I think those players both have floor and ceiling. Flowers a nice floor play. ETN, it's just they're not getting it done. And Houston is a good enough defense. Look, if ETN has that big game on your bench, you're not going to be happy, but he hasn't really done a whole lot yet. And it's not his fault. It's a horrible offensive line. He had a garbage time run last week to end the 68 yards on the ground, but realistically, he had a touchdown in week 1 and 2, but the yards just aren't there. And I just think you got to go with those other two. You got to go with DK and you got to go Brian Robinson here. Delroy, half PPR, start 3, JSN, Drake London, DJ Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Zay Flowers. Am I excited that Amon-Ra St. Brown will see a lot of Devin Witherspoon? No, but St. Brown's a star and he's a huge part of the offense. And even if they run, he is going to probably see his target share. I just don't think you could sit St. Brown in good conscience. Also, DJ Moore, there's supposed to be some wind in Chicago. This is based on my meteorologist, Dennis Michelson, who yesterday told me now, I don't have we're on now. I'm not going to get an up-to-the-minute weather report, but I do think the Bears have to throw shorter in this game. And I do think that against the Rams, who give no pressure, no coverage, they can get that game going. They've been throwing them more short, and he can get some yards after the catch. So I would go with him as well. Third one is tough because Drake London's probably going to have a tough matchup when he's on the outside against those New Orleans corners, whereas Jackson Smith and Jigba playing inside with a team that plays about half-man defense, which is among the third highest rate in the league. I think London is the safe play. I think Smith and Jigba has real upside here. He could have a bigger game. Based on the way that defensive style of the Lions plays. And if the Lions get the pass rush, Smith and Jigba could be the hot read in the middle. London has a better floor because you see each week the confidence is getting there between he and Kirk. I know it was a busted cover touchdown last week, but that's so I would go St. Brown more. If you want to go boom bust, go Smith and Jigba. If you want the floor, go London. Steve, flex at a tight end premium. Parkinson, Conklin, Ertz, JMO, or P. Ryan. Yeah, JMO disappointed us last week. The thing I like about JMO this week is if he plays against like Tariq Woolen, that's not a right matchup. Like Woolen's the big physical guy who can take like the alpha type corner, a receiver, and kind of get physical with him. But they don't use JMO that way. They use JMO on some underneath stuff, them crossers, and the speed is going to be like way out of Woolen's league, I think. So I like JMO this week. And your tight end premium, look, Parkinson, I do like him this week. I think he's going to get some targets, but it's really hard to bank on him. Conklin had the great game last week. Now, Conklin is interesting here because Denver's going to cook up all these different pressure schemes, and Conklin and Lazard, when he's in the slot 38%, are going to be the hot reads. And so there's a good opportunity. Ertz has had a floor for you every week. I think Williams obviously has the biggest ceiling of this group. He could go off here. So if you want to shoot for big upside, it's there. I think your best floor play this group. I think Conklin does get targets as a hot read here. That'd be my call on that. But Flet's floor, JMO again should be back to being somewhat involved here. And they're going to run a lot, but there'll be enough for JMO. Kevin, more on you as well. Hurts or Purdy? Hurts, I know. The two games have had bad rushing numbers. They are playing Tampa, who Tampa's done pretty well against him. They're probably going to run a lot. There's no A.J. Brown. There's no Devontae Smith. They probably bracket Goddard. Purdy's probably your better floor play, I think. Could Hurts break a couple misdirection runs and go off? Yeah. I think they're playing New England, but with the receiver types they have, they should get enough done. So I'm going to say, if you want a super safe layup, it's Purdy. But obviously, if you need upside, then you got to go because Purdy's not going to have a huge game. Purdy's probably going to get like 230 and 1 or 2 touchdowns, which would probably be fine. But there's a chance for Hurts that Barkley runs all day and they don't need him. So, but if Hurts runs in 2 touchdowns, all of a sudden he makes your day. So your boom bust play is Hurts. I would be inclined to start Hurts because I think he's going to find a way to get enough done. But you want to be super safe and conservative. That's the way to go. And then you've also got PPR. Kirk, Mooney, Garrett Wilson, Dobbins, Jacobs, Pollard, Brian Robinson, and you need two of those. All right. I'm going to give Higgins a shot here. 90% snap share last week. Super easy matchup. It was kind of like a easing back game, 3 for 36, I think, last week. But I think this matchup, he gets it going back here again. You know what? I really like Robinson is the best floor play of the other ones because of the matchup against Arizona and no Austin Eckler. I know they got Jeremy McNichols in there, but he's not taking on Eckler's workload, I wouldn't think. So Robinson, your safe one. Your boom bust play is Garrett Wilson because I know he hasn't had a big game yet and he'll see some Sertan, but he's Garrett Wilson. And he could break a play at any time. And the confidence with him and Rodgers seems to be growing after that touchdown last week. So I'd say, yeah, Higgins and Robinson for floor. But if you want to go boom bust, then Wilson, but probably Robinson and Higgins. Man, I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is what it is. I got to come back to Steve, but I've got another super chat question here. We got Fabian. All right, Fabian. Najee, Chuba, or Dobbins? You know, Najee is a good matchup. No DeForest Buckner for Indianapolis, which that middle run defense wasn't good anyway, and that helps. Chuba is in a good spot because since he's balled out both, one of their defensive tackles doubtful, the other's out, but they couldn't stop the run even with them. They're terrible. And Chuba's used as a receiver as well. Joe Mixon's inactive, by the way, everybody. I'll get back to that in a second. But Fabian, Chuba, I believe, has a higher floor than Najee, even without Jalen Warren, because they're going to use Chuba as a runner and a receiver, and there's a lot of merit to that. Dobbins is just a bad matchup. He's missing both offensive tackles, so I think that's going to hurt a bit. So I'm going to give Chuba the edge. Olave, Dortch, or Yoshivas. I'm going with Olave here. He flew with the team. He's going to be active. He is active, actually. Just check that. And so Dortch, they might not need the slot this week because Washington doesn't pressure. Yoshivas, again, I don't know if they're going to need him as much in this game. I do like him as the number 3, better than number 2 because the coverage is favorable. I'm going to give Olave the shot there. And you're down A.J. Brown and Tank, though. But yeah, I like Olave and I like Chuba in that one. Good question. All right, let me get back to let me see where I left off of Keller. I know Steve. I left on Steve. Injury update, guys. Let's go through the injuries they pour in here. Carolina, no injuries that were unexpected. Like I said, Joe Mixon is inactive. We knew Tank Dell wasn't playing. We knew Damian Pierce wasn't playing. If you need an emergency waiver ad, if he's out there, Dario Gunbowale, I think 43% of the snaps this week, he caught 2 passes. If for some reason they're probably not going to trail, but if they do, he'd be the receiving back. He's going to play some. Cam Akers, you're either playing him if you think that Houston's going to blow out Jacksonville and he's going to get late carries, or if you're going to pray he's going to fall in the end zone. But like we saw last week, if he doesn't fall in the end zone, it's a short catch he got in on. That's a real problem. And then Alvin Kamara, we knew would be active, so no issue there. Ian Rapport reports Drake May is still a ways away from starting for the Patriots, and nothing new else right now. Jordan Love is active as we knew. Jair Alexander will not play against the Vikings. That is massive news for Jordan Addison and for Sam Darnold. I don't say Justin Jefferson because he's Justin freaking Jefferson. So, but that's a big deal for Sam Darnold. That moves him up the ranking a little bit because as you got to go into that depth in the cornerback room, that is a real problem. We knew the Falcons would be without right tackle Caleb McGarry. Their Dahlman is on IR as well. So Bijan will probably catch more passes, but his rushing could suffer a bit with a decimated line. All right, Steve, get to your question now. You got Taysom Hill, Higgins, Strange, Henry. I am going with, you mean it's Elijah Higgins. Okay. I'm worried about Taysom Hill because they use him as a runner, and their center and their guard are out. Ruiz and McCoy are out. So that's going to make it tougher for Taysom Hill, I think. Hunter Henry is the most likely of this group to see 5 targets. I know Strange saw close at the last 2 weeks. Hunter Henry's playing in San Francisco. I don't think it's going to be Fred Warner lining up on Hunter Henry to take him. I don't think they could view him as a threat. I think Henry is the best floor of this group. I think the best boom bust play is actually Higgins. I don't know how much they're going to have to go to him in this game, but if they decide to double up Harrison or bracket him, that could mean some work for Higgins in the middle. Henry's your floor play. Higgins is your boom bust. Strange got in the end zone, but it's like 2 for 12. 2 receivers out of Kirk, Shakir, Mooney, and Flowers. It's Mooney's gonna had the targets the last 2 weeks, but I think Kirk is reemerged as an option in that offense last week, and they need him. They really, really need him, and that's a big part of what they do. So I'm gonna go with Kirk. Shakir's gotten it done. Am I excited about the Baltimore matchup? Not particularly. I would give Zay Flowers the floor edge over Shakir because Shakir can't score a touchdown every week. I would tend to make it Kirk and Flowers. These are all very close. None of these are definitive. But again, I would go on Kirk and Flowers, but you can make a case for all four of them. It's a great question because they're all that close. Wow, Jeff, it's come to that, right? And it's a good question, right? Richardson or Dalton? Like I said, you heard me earlier. I can make a case for Dalton against Cincinnati because Cincinnati is terrible defensively. They have nothing anywhere. They may be the worst defense in the league. They may be. And Dalton can get it done there. He can. Richardson has a horrible matchup, and Richardson has been frankly terrible. We all know that. He's been outside the top 12 quarterbacks, and it hasn't been close. 24 yards on the ground last week, 37 the prior week. They did play the Bears last week, so there's that. You'd kick yourself if Richardson had a game and Dalton soiled the bed, because Andy Dalton soiled the bed so many times in his career. I'm going with Richardson for that reason. I understand if you start Dalton, completely get it. It's Dalton. Otherwise, and I know Richardson's got a tough matchup, but I'm gonna lean Richardson there. Steve, Justice Hill, Roschon, Ken Walker. You know what? They took Walker off the injury report. Nasty matchup. They're running a spread though, and that might help him. I just can't sit Walker over those options. I can't guarantee Justice Hill gets the 5 targets. Roschon, a lot of that came late last week. The defense I noticed was giving free yards up. I can't sit Walker between those two because ultimately Justice Hill and Roschon Johnson are Justice Hill and Roschon Johnson. Ken Walker can break plays. He can catch the ball. I'm going to give Walker the edge. Delroy, Minshew or Huntley? I can't play Minshew here. No Devontae. No Michael Mayer. That's for blocking. And Cleveland's pass rush, again, I know McGarrett's a little limited. They're no joke. Their 3 corners can cover very well. Huntley may not be a good option, but Huntley can run a little bit. So for that reason, I'm going to give Huntley the edge. And he ran less his second year than his first. 2021, he ran for like 50 yards a game. It was only 24 yards per game in 2022. But I think with the speed of Hill and Waddle on the field, Huntley might be able to run for 35, 40 yards. That gives me the edge to Huntley. Terminal Sarcasm, more into you as well. You would start Pickens over Wilson. I think so. Kenny Moore, who wasn't a threat anyways, 5'9", he's out. Juju Brents is on the IR. They get no pass rush. Yeah, I think I'm going to go. I think Pickens could have a game. Pickens could have had a game 2 weeks ago, but there were like 2 penalties he drew. It cost him big plays. I'm going to go with, I will go with Pickens here. I have Wilson ranked higher because he's Garrett Wilson, but he'll see Surtain a lot. But Pickens, I'm going to tell you his targets. Let me see what his targets exactly are for you. 7, 7, and 4. And the 4 is that week against Denver where he drew a couple penalties. So those didn't count. So yeah, Pickens is getting a slightly better target volume. Again, that 4 didn't really reflect what happened. I'm going to go with Pickens. It's close. Kevin, need 3. Yoshi Voss, Tyler Johnson, Deebo Samuel, Mooney, Kirk, Judy, or Higgins. You need 3. I'm going with Higgins. You've heard me say he played 90% of the snaps. I think he's back. He's going to be full go this week. You heard me say about Kirk. I think that game last week, that gets them going again. He's a huge part of their offense. He has to be. They need him. So I think that really worked out well for them. And then for your third, I can't sit Deebo. If they got him in and they brought him back, they're going to use him. I have to think, and you'd kick yourself if Deebo broke in for a couple of times. I'm not worried about the cornerback matchups at all. Gonzalez is not like I said earlier, it's not like Samuel's like an outside boundary receiver. They use him so versatilely, and they use him as a runner too. So yeah, I'm gonna go with those 3. Call it a day. Injury stuff. See what else we got here. We knew Evan Ingram would be out. Darnell Savage, the free safety's out. They've been down like a 4th free safety for a while. That's big for Houston. It's big for Dalton Schultz. It's big in the slot for oh my gosh, for myself, Stephon Diggs. And yeah, so that's interesting there. Vikings, nothing special injury wise. We knew the Jets would be without right tackle Morgan Moses a few weeks, but they do have Olu Fashanu, their 1st-round draft pick. They might be fine there. Not worried about that. Rashad White is active. We knew that. Looks like Bucky Irving is active as well. So they're both going to play here. They'll split that backfield up. Um, Keenan Allen's active. We kind of expected that. Both defensive tackles for Cincinnati, BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins, are out. So it is a real wheels up for Chuba Hubbard this week in a super, super soft matchup. We knew Jalen Warren would be out. So if you're in an emergency, deep situation, Cordero Patterson did get a little extra work. In Denver, Devon Vele is a healthy stretch again. So if you're in a really deep league and you need some PPR points, it's little Jordan Humphrey. The slot has been getting targets every week for Denver. I think it's 7, 5, and 8. There's always slot targets there. And so if you're in a super deep PPR league and you need targets that could turn into a 4 for 40, you could go super deep and look at that as well. All right. Let's see if there's any other news that's here before we go on. All right, we already said Vele. Yep, we went through that. It's okay. It looks like we're getting close on injuries here. Deontay Johnson, we knew would be active. Nothing to worry about there. As I said, Bucky Irving is active. We're fine there. All right, moving on back to the questions here. Kevin, you need 3. Oh, we answered this one, didn't we? We answered that one. We went Higgins, we went Kirk, and we went Debo. Kevin, Mixon or Dobbins? Mixon is inactive, so your question has been answered. We wish Mixon was playing for sure. Hopefully soon. Hopefully next week. Tom, Kirk or Brian Thomas? Like it's tough. I think last week showed me. We know last week is what Christian Kirk is. That's what he is. 8 for 79. He had 10 targets. Well, I mean, 10 targets. Obviously, not everybody gets 10 targets a week, but that's who he is. He's a big part of their interior game. And Houston's defense, they're going to have Derek Stingley. He's probably going to see Thomas a good number of snaps. That's a mismatch in favor of the defense. I'm going to give Kirk the edge there. Unite Santini, Worthy, Waddle, or Kirk. I'm giving Kirk the edge here as well. Worthy, remember the last 2 weeks, we didn't see like anything. He's getting, a slight usage. He's about 20 yards a week. The first week, he had the blown coverage. Marlon Humphrey passed him off to nobody at all for a free touchdown. He ran that end around, dynamic speed, but nobody touched him. It was perfect blocking. Worthy's gonna have to do it at least one more time before I trust him. Waddle, right now, it's not his fault. Kirk is probably going to have more targets. Hate to sit Waddle, but it is what it is. Rahendra, good morning to you as well. Full point PPR. Need 2 receivers. Rashee, Marvin Harrison, Metcalf, and Jennings. All right, Jennings you don't have to worry about now because we got Debo back and we got Kittle back. So Jennings is back to his blocking role. You might see 3 targets in a perfect situation, but yeah, it's not going to be a focal point of the offense anymore. Hold him in case somebody gets hurt. And that's probably about it. So Rashee Rice, you cannot sit. He is a top 5, top 6 receiver going forward. And Harrison and Metcalf are close, but I think Harrison has the easier matchup because Washington can't rush and they can't cover. So that's kind of like the combo we like. Metcalf's in a great spot, but the pass rush could get home from Hutchinson. So I'm going to give Rice and Harrison the edge. Obviously, Metcalf can always be started if you feel the desire to start him over Harrison. Tyreek Hill or Jaden Reed. Oh my gosh. I have to rank Tyreek Hill higher. You see my rankings. I have to because he's Tyreek Hill. And if he touches the ball, anything can happen. I have him wide receiver 17 because they hand it off to him. He could go 80 yards on the drop of a hat. I trust Reed more. Reed's gonna have a floor, especially with Jordan Love back. So consider Tyreek Hill boom or bust because if he gets, a couple crazy plays, toss sweep that he takes for an 80-yard touchdown. But otherwise, your safer play is Jaden Reed. Let me make sure I got the super chat. I got a super chat question here. Let's see what we got here. Wishy 3. You need PPR. You need a flex and a start. Debo, JSN, and Higgins. Wow. Higgins, I'm gonna. All right. It's a great question. Debo, like I said earlier, it's not going to be Christian Gonzalez's lockdown on him because that's not Debo's role. He's a chess piece, right? So you have to be concerned, is he really 100%? And I think that might be enough with your other 2 options to say, you know what, maybe he's not 100%. Maybe he doesn't break those extra big plays. JSN, Detroit plays top 3 man coverage, which is great for JSN, who gets open in man coverage very well. Spread offense, they run pace. If Hutchinson starts getting home, he'll be a hot read. Higgins should be safer than Debo. So if you want a safe play, you get 3 for 30 something last week, and Higgins played 90% of the snaps. So there's that. He should see a little bit more elevation. But Debo's your boom bust play. So JSN, I would say floor and ceiling. He should have either. He floor for sure. He has potential for ceiling. The other two, Higgins is your floor play. He's going to probably get 7 targets this week, and probably has a chance to score. Of course, super cake matchup. If you need to swing for the moon, then you take the shot on Debo that is 100% and he breaks a couple big plays. But with that combo, you might be able to have another week where you can hold Debo out if you feel you need to. But again, if you feel bad if Debo went off on your bench, then just play him over Higgins. All right, see where we left off on questions here. I think we took Brahendra's last. We took Uncle Unite Santini's last. John. So we can't forget with Terry McLaurin, and I know, and it sounds like I'm being like a jerk here, and I'm really not being a jerk. Terry McLaurin had a great game last week. Loved it. Love to see him do. He's a great player. Love to see him do well. But he played the Bengals. And look, his quarterback made the throws. God bless him for it. Safety could get over there. They're terrible. And so, but you got to look at McLaurin's first 2 weeks. The Giants, 6 for 22. The Tampa Bay game, 2 for 17. And then you get the 4 for 100. It was only 4 catches. 2 of them happened to be bombs. One of them got in the end zone. So that's great. Could he do it again? Yes. Would I bank on it? No. Arizona's not a good defense, but they saw on film now they're willing to throw deep to McLaurin. So now they're more likely to shade some coverage. I'm starting Garrett Wilson. Wilson is a safer floor. And Wilson will play in the slot some too. So there's that. Trust your gut, but it's so hard to predict McLaurin to do that again. Shookson, good morning to you as well. ETN or Dobbins? I will go ETN here. Dobbins is down both offensive tackles. The Chiefs are going to condense the field. Justin Herbert is probably not a threat to be going downfield all day on a high ankle. I don't think he's a threat. I think that they're going to put a lot of pressure up. Can Dobbins catch a few passes? Yeah. ETN's had a floor. It hasn't been a great floor, but it's been a floor. And I think he catches a few passes. I'm giving ETN a pretty clear edge in this one. If Dobbins had his offensive line, I'd feel a little bit better about it. PPR Jennings, Quentin Johnson. I'm going to go Michael Wilson here. I think with the tight end, McBride out, Wilson on the outside, I think he becomes like the clear number 2 receiver for the offense here. It's Harrison and Wilson. And Wilson's a very good player. We saw beginning of last season, end of last season, the kid can play. And last week they threw him targets and he played well. I'm going to go with Michael Wilson there. If Herbert was healthy, right, look at Quentin Johnson. But man, Kansas City's a nasty match. But Jennings is back to his blocking role, I think, with Debo back and Kittle back. John, I would drop Worthy for Shakir, and people think I'm crazy for that, but I said this all preseason about Worthy. I can't take away his first game. Nobody covered him on the pass touchdown. Not his fault. He scored and bend around with perfectly blocked. But like I said, Worthy's going to clear the field out, and that's what his job was going to be. Shakir is a every week floor play. He may be the number 1 receiver in that offense. I know, functionally you don't call him that, but in terms of volume and role, yeah. And he's playing with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's scoring a lot of points. Patrick Mahomes isn't putting a lot of points on the board. I'm going to go with Shakir here, and yeah, I'm not even worrying about that one. Now watch, Worthy goes off for 4 touchdowns and 400 yards today, right? But no, seriously, Khalil Shakir's a good floor play every week. John, I probably would. Now, Lawrence ain't getting better. I just don't see that ship sailed, because last year he was terrible. This year, 3 games, he's terrible. I don't know what changes. I don't see anything changes. If they fire the coaching staff, what do they do? Who do they bring in? Could a switch go on in Lawrence's head? Yes, he's talented, but there's nothing that made me think that's going to happen. Andy Dalton, they're going to trail every week, most weeks. He's going to have to throw. He's got receivers. He's got an offensive line. Yeah, I probably would do it. I probably would do that. Sleek, happy Sunday. Full PPR, need one. Pollard, Chuba, or Akers. I got to go Chuba here. Matchup is super soft. Both defensive tackles are out for a Cincinnati defense that can't stop the run anyway. I love Pollard. But Miami's a better draw and tougher draw. Chuba's got a beautiful draw. He can catch. He can run. If they fall behind, game script will not bother him either way. Yeah, I got to go with Chuba here. All right, next question. Thank you very much for the kind words. Need two receivers from this bunch. DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Rashid Shaheed, and Jawan Jennings. You've heard me already talk about Jennings. He should be back to his blocking role with Debo and Kittle back. Shaheed with the center and one of the guards out. It's going to be less time for Carr to throw, and that means the downfield game for Shaheed's going to be very, very dicey. I'm going to go with the safer floors of DJ Moore and T. Higgins here. Julian, Baker, or Hurts? Obviously, I have Hurts ranked. I always rank Hurts high because of the rushing ability, but he hasn't been a great rusher. I have Mayfield ranked as my quarterback 8. I would be more inclined to trust Mayfield. Both running backs, like Rashad White, they say he's feeling better, but he's sick. And the other running back, Irving, he has like a hammy, supposedly fine. But Evans and Godwin have great advantages in this matchup. And there's no edge rush from Philly. Um, Obviously Hurts is boom bust. He could go off and run for 2 touchdowns and 100 yards, and then he wins the week. But I think more likely than not, his floor could be low. It could be a big Barkley game on the ground. The safe play here is Baker, but if you got to go boom bust, because Baker could implode at any time. There's like no rhyme or reason when he does it, so you got to think about that, right? Baker is safe. Hurts has always massive ceiling because he can run. Like if they're running Barkley and he does some backside, fake and run, go the other way and the field's open, Hurts could break the game. So just remember that if you're starting Baker, that there's a potential for big upside with Hurts. And Hurts's floor should be safe too. He should have a floor. Regardless of what happens, there should be a floor, even without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But I do like the idea of Baker in there. But again, it's really hard to set Hurts over him. And I'm just gonna say Hurts because the floor is high enough that how much would Baker outscore Hurts' floor? Probably not by a lot. Watch, he throws 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. It could happen. It could happen. McLaurin, Mooney, Thomas, full PPR, pick one. That's a tough one. Mooney's a good matchup because the bigger corners on the outside. For New Orleans, he's like more of a slippery guy, and they kind of get him on some inbreakers too. So that helps. Thomas, I don't really like his matchups. He'll see a bunch of Stingley. I don't know how much, but he'll see enough of it to lower his stock. McLaurin doesn't have a bad matchup here. I'm going to go McLaurin, though. I'm going to go McLaurin this week. You heard me talk about throwing shade on him, but I think this matchup is good enough where I think you go to him over Mooney. I think you go to him over Mooney. Chris, good morning to you as well. I got a super chat question. I'm going to take Chris's, and I got a super chat that just popped up. All right, let me just do the injury check, too, real quick here. Anything new coming? We knew Cooper Kupp was out. Russell Wilson is inactive, so he's not even like the third quarterback. Is interesting. We knew A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Lane Johnson is out with a concussion, right tackle. That actually doesn't help Saquon Barkley. Now, the Tampa Bay line has been a mess. Elijah Cansey's out. I think Vea is less than 100%. I still think Barkley gets a massive dose, but no Lane Johnson. That hurts them quite a bit. Wow. We knew Jalen McMillan was out for the Bucs. We knew that. Bears, nothing special on their injuries. All right, we should look good on that for now. All right, Chris, now I'll get the super chat question. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, Chris. Deontay, Kirk, Jacoby, Quentin, or Shakir, pick 3. I like the floor for all of Deontay, Kirk, and Shakir. I like all 3 of those. Those are the 3 I would start. Myers, it looks good enough, right? But Cleveland has 3 really good corners. They have a pass rush. Gardner Minshew is a problem. So I don't think I take the risk with him. Quentin Johnson, Kansas City's a nasty defense. Justin Herbert's limited on an ankle. He got that early touchdown to Johnson last week, but then we saw even before Herbert left that game, we kind of saw the limitations there. So I just think you go with the safe plays, Johnson, Kirk, and Shakir, and you call it a day. Super chat, and then I'll get back to Julian. All right, super chat question. We've got Fabian. All right, Fabian, what do you got here? Need a flex. Akers, Chase Brown, Braylon Allen, Hopkins, Waddle, Dobbs, Roshan, or Dortch. A lot of weeks I like Dortch, but I like him when the Cardinals face a pass rush. And this week they're not likely to face one from Washington, so I don't like him as much. Roshan should get some volume here, definitely, because the last week we saw that really Swift is struggling, right? The Rams are a good enough matchup, so there's that. I don't know how many receptions are because the Bears may not be trailing. Dubs is the outside receiver. He should have a floor. You should see, but I don't know how much of a ceiling there is. Waddle, it's not his fault. You know, that's the quarterback, but that is an issue. Hopkins got a lot of targets last week, but is at the expense of Ridley. That could go back. Um, Akers, like I said, you got to pray he falls in the end zone or Houston blows out Jacksonville where he get late carries. Chase Brown not getting enough work. Allen mixed in. He needs a touchdown. So of this group, I think the most stable floor is Romeo Dobbs. I think he's the most stable floor. He'd be a safe play for you because he's going to get a lot of those outside looks from Jordan Love, especially if Jordan Love is stationary with the knee. I think he gets a few more looks than usual. I think your boom bust here is going to be DeAndre Hopkins because DeAndre Hopkins last week, he showed that ability to capitalize on his targets. He got 6 of 7 for 73 and a touchdown. But if they decide to get Ridley, like to force him the ball back to even it up, you got to worry. So I'm saying Dobbs is your safe floor play and Hopkins is your boom bust. I would love to add for Kate Waddle. I just can't because of the horrific situation on their offense with the quarterback. All right. I answered Chris. I'm on Julian now. Okay. McLaughlin, JSN, Shakir. I'm going with JSN. A lot of man coverage from Detroit. If Hutchinson gets going, I think the hot read is going to be JSN. I love him this week. Shakir has a nice floor, but I think JSN has an equal floor. Oh, yeah, that's McLaurin. I thought it's, I say McLaughlin. I'm going with JSN though on this because I think JSN has floor and ceiling in this game against Detroit. Mark, you got an FFPC going on, tight end premium. You need 2. JMO, P. Ryan, Ertz, Conklin, Parks. Somebody had that same exact question earlier. Probably wasn't you. I'm going with Jameson Williams. I think Jameson Williams is the way to go. Last week we didn't like what happened, but again, those outside corners, especially Woolen, it's a stylistic advantage for JMO because he's fast, and that's not what Woolen wants to get his hand on you and get physical. But your floor play is going to be Conklin there. Conklin's your floor play because he should be a hot read this week when Denver's sending all the kind of funky pressure, and Rodgers knows how to check out of that stuff real well. So Conklin's you had your floor play, but JMO has some real upside in this game against Seattle because of stylistically how he matches up with them. JKM, happy Sunday to you as well. Appreciate you. Need a wide receiver 3 and a flex. Jaden Reed, Juwan Jennings, Kelsey, and Rashad White. I would definitely go with Jaden Reed. They just have so many different ways to get him the ball, and he is a star. Jennings, I think, is back to his normal blocking role, 1 to 3 targets because Debo's back and Kittle's back, and that was like a 1-week thing where they needed him, and they used him. And, man, it's really hard. If Rashad White, so he had food poisoning. He says he feels better. We don't know what that means. Is he really better? Is he worn out? And for that reason, as bad as Kelsey's been, I'm going to start Kelsey over him. If your gut says White, go with it because he's getting targets and there's something to be said for that. But because of the food poisoning, that's enough for me to say I'm going to go with Kelsey. Sticks in a running back and a flex. Connor, Mason, Godwin, Metcalf. I am going with Connor and Godwin here. Connor has an elite matchup. Mason has gotten a little bit worse each week, and not his fault. New England's not a great matchup. And then Godwin and Metcalf are close. Metcalf has a lot of man coverage, and he does have a big advantage here. But Godwin has just been playing at a high level, and the offense is perfectly suited for him. And against Philly, the middle of the field, sign me up for that. So again, either of those guys could go off. I think Godwin is a safer floor, so I'm going with Godwin here. Sideshow, do I trust Debo or would I go with Pittman's? If you had other choices, I would say no, but I'm going to go with Debo. Pittman hasn't done much of anything. You'll probably see quite a bit of Joey Porter, and Sutton is probably going to see quite a bit of Sauce Gardner and Dortch because I don't think there's going to be much of a pass rush. I don't know how much they need the slot this week. And so I am going to go with Debo over them. Nathaniel, Walker or Pollard? I have Walker rated higher. Where do I actually have him at? I got Walker at 22. I got Pollard at 18. It's a nasty matchup for Walker. Is there a chance for a re-injury? Maybe. Pollard is a good enough matchup. It's a good enough, against Miami. It's a good enough matchup, and he's been playing at a good enough level. So I'm going to give Pollard the slight edge here. If it was any matchup other than Detroit, I would say Walker, but I'm giving Pollard the edge here. Julian, Tyreek, JSN, Terry. So I think the safest floor of those 3 is Smith and Jigba because of the man coverage that Detroit plays, and I know he has a ceiling, but man, I just get it's always tough to tell people to bench Tyreek Hill, but because if they find a gadget way to get him the ball, he could score at any time. So if you can live with Hill on your bench, and if he breaks 2 long plays and he takes them both to the house and he goes off, if you can live with that, then play JSN. Otherwise, I would just say, you know what? I've got Hill. He's a superstar. Mike McDaniel had another week to see what he didn't do right and to get it figured out. And so there's that. Um, so reluctantly, I'll say JSN, but if it's my team, I'm probably not sitting Tyreek Hill because I have to trust that they got to get on the ball. Let me see if I have another super chat before I get back to Nathaniel here. No, I got him. Good. No, I'm not. I got another super chat question here. Lex, 204. Mason, Akers, Dobbins, Chase Brown. We will go at Mason. Again, I'm not excited about the New England matchup, but the volume will be there. So there's definitely going to be that. Again, Akers, if you expect Houston to blow out Jacksonville, then he should get carries late. Otherwise, he's not good. We saw last week. He got fortunate with the touchdown, but he did very little in what was a very good matchup. Ogunbowale plays more than Akers. He outsnapped him last week. J.J. Taylor even got a series. Dobbins is missing both guards. He could catch a couple passes here, which will help him. Chase Brown, look, not enough work, but it's a cake matchup. So I would say Mason for sure. Dobbins has the safest floor of the remaining 3. I can't bank on Akers getting a blowout workload, but I do think Chase Brown has a little more sneaky upside than Dobbins because Dobbins in this matchup, it may not materialize. So again, Mason and Dobbins, but if you want to swing, I think Chase Brown could break a big player too, but it's a long risk. So probably just make it Mason and Dobbins. If you're feeling frisky, you could go Chase Brown, but there's not enough volume. And I'll tell you what his touches are. He did have a few last week, like 9 maybe. Yeah, he had 7 carries and 2 catches. But the prior weeks he had 4 carries and he has 6. So the workload is just a little too problematic with that. Good question, as always. All right, see where we left off here. All right, let me see how we're doing on total questions here. Yeah, we'll have quite a few of these. I probably got to get into speed mode. Most of these players that we'll talk about, I've already kind of gone through the rationale, so I can do a little more speed answering so we can make sure we get everybody's questions answered for them. If there's somebody who didn't come up, I'll explain it in a little more detail. One more injury sweep here, nothing new. So we are in good shape with those. All right. Jaden or Mahomes? It's Jaden. Mahomes is a quarterback too since the middle of last year, unfortunately. And he's been the first few weeks of this year. He's a quarterback too. Jaden Daniels runs. So, yes, Jaden Daniels. I hate to say it. Trade Mahomes if you can, if you got Jaden Daniels. Dude Love. Let's see. Akers, Stevenson, Pollard, Roshan, Irving. So you need 2 of those. I'm going Stevenson and Pollard, volume and matchup. Receivers, Ayuk, Deontay, Olave, and Komet or Andrews. You just need 1 of these. Safest floor play in this group is Deontay Johnson. Your boom bust play is Brandon Ayuk, who had 10 targets, but did nothing with them last week. Deontay is the safest play. If Olave was 100%, I'd have him in the mix. You have other great options. Deontay's a floor play. Ayuk, if you want to swing for ceiling, because he's going to have that ceiling game. He's going to have it. It just hasn't been yet. Shakir, I assume that's Shakir. Ridley or Mooney? Shakir probably has the safest floor of this group, and I'll go with him. Deontay or Olave? All right. Deontay has a great floor, super easy matchup. Olave does have boom potential here. He does have boom potential here. But I'm probably going to because of the injury and the potential for re-injury, I'm going to say Deontay. I got to go faster so I get through everybody. Boss man, Godwin, McLaurin, Kirk, Ridley, Myers, Mooney. Godwin for me is a must start. And I am going to go second week. Kirk, if you want the safe floor play, he's getting targets now. If you want to go boom bust, it'd be McLaurin. But I would start the safe play of Kirk and Godwin. But again, boom bust would be McLaurin. CJ, Stevenson, Irving, Braylon Allen, Reed, Shakir need 1 in a flex. I am going with Stevenson in a good matchup and volume, and I'm going with Reed, who is a superstar who's getting enough volume. Shakir's close. Mike, Addison, Worthy, or Lockett? I know we don't like to trust a player coming back from injury, but Jair Alexander is out for the Packers. That decimates their secondary. I am going with Addison for the floor. If you want a boom bust play, it's going to be Worthy here. Philly, full PPR. Shakir, Worthy, or Brian Thomas. I am going Shakir for floor, and I'm probably calling it a day because he could get in the end zone here as well. Good morning, Jordan. Need one in the flex, full PPR. Ford or Moss? Moss is a cake matchup here, and he's getting the lead work. And Cincy, when the teams are dropping the shell, they're handing the ball and taking the free yards. I am going to go with Moss here. TG, Johnson or JMO? Johnson has a great floor. I'm not worried about the banged up. I think he's fine. I think everybody's hurt in the NFL already, believe that or not. I believe everybody's banged up to some degree. And JMO's your boom bust play because JMO could go off this week. I love his matchup. Deontay is a good high floor, easy matchup, but that's your floor play. But if you want to go for boom bust, then definitely consider JMO because I do think he could go off this week. Vinny, week 4. Yeah, I know. It's insane. London or Reed? I'm going to give Reed the edge here. London's going to face either Debo or Lattimore. They're both big physical outside corners, and that's kind of a rougher matchup. Reed has a pretty good floor. I do think there's boom bust potential for London because I know last week was a blown coverage for the touchdown, but he is getting a little more chemistry with Kirk Cousins. There's definitely that. Reed's has a good high floor. So I would probably give Reed the edge for that reason. And Olave is playing, so you're set. Gabriel, thank you. I need to start 2 players. Garrett Wilson, Smith and Jigba, Braylon Allen. You know what? Garrett Wilson will have a good enough floor. Braylon Allen, if he doesn't get in the end zone, it could be a little problematic. And I'm still wondering what his real workload is because the first game he got all that work, we saw Brees Hall on a stationary bike on the side. And then the second game was a short week. And I really wonder what Allen's workload is going to be because those might have been 2 situations. I got to see one more game of workload before I trust him. I'm going to go to Garrett Wilson and Smith and Jigba. Henry, Olave, Akers, Kirk, or Wilson? Yeah, Garrett Wilson, Olave. I'm giving Olave the edge here. They traveled him. My guess is compared to these other groups, he's got to have the same floor as them. And I think he has potential for more upside. Randy, all right. Good to see you. Rodgers I'm going Rodgers. Lawrence is just so awful right now. Could he have a game? Yeah. And I do trust Rodgers' rest of schedule. To me, it looked like he figured it out. It looked like he knocked the rust off the first 2 weeks. He looked like Aaron Rodgers last week. And that wasn't like a 1 week thing. I think that he really is back to being Aaron Rodgers. And I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers' rest of schedule on the day. Jay-Z. Need to. Hubbard, Najee, or Walker. You know what? Walker is a nasty matchup. He's the best of the 3 by far. But Harris and Hubbard both have good matchups, and they're both going to get volume. I'm giving them the edge here. Walker's has a nasty matchup, and he's going to split some work too. Terminal Sarcasm, full PPR. Starting Daniels, Sit, Akers, Brian Robinson, or Dobbins. If you think that Akers and Houston are going to win in a blowout, then Akers would get enough garbage time to cash. Dobbins should get a few catches here. Brian Robinson for sure, and I'm going with Dobbins. But again, if you think Houston's going to blow him out, then you can put Akers in over Dobbins because he would get garbage time work. Laura and Jim Cooperman, PPR, Mooney, Patterson, Pirine, or Moss. I am going with Moss. You heard me talking about him a minute ago, and I'm going with Mooney, who had, I believe, 8 and 9 targets in the last 2 games. Andrew, good morning. JKM, Jacobs or Zach Moss. Ooh, man. You know what? Because Jordan Love is back, I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs here. I'm going to go because he should get some volume here. Now, the snaps were down as he gives off a 32 carry game. I think there'd be more space for him. Drop Rashad, Bucky, or neither to replace McBride. That's tough, Cliff. That's tough. Rashad has to maintain the receiving role, and that's more valuable than the rushing role in Tampa. So if you have to drop one of them, it would have to be Bucky because Rashad holds that valuable receiving role. Myers is out. Like Jacoby Myers? I'm not sure who we're talking about. All right. To my knowledge, Jacoby Myers is not out, but maybe I'm wrong. I got to look this up now. So sorry about this, everybody, but now we got to look up Myers, Meyers. Sorry, give me a second here, everybody. I'm just going to look this up and we're talking things through. Just looking at some quick injuries here to see what we've got. And of course, nothing shows up here. All right. So I'm going to go to the next question, see what I can figure. I really don't know what that means. Maybe it's something I missed, but let's see. All right. Vikings defense versus the Packers. Saints defense against the Falcons. Titans defense against the Dolphins. I'm going to go with the Titans defense here. Vikings defense is great, but the Packers played them twice last year, and I trust their offensive coach to understand how to beat them. Ayuk, Jennings, Deontay Johnson. In standard, that takes a little shine off of our friend Deontay Johnson, but Deontay Johnson's going to see targets, so he has the best floor. I like Ayuk here. I like Ayuk. He got 10 targets last week. With other guys coming back, gives him a little more space to work. I'm going with Ayuk here. Deontay Johnson certainly a player to consider. All right, and I still got to find out about this injury. Give me a second here while we do this. You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I go back and forth here. If somebody knows something about Myers, I'm not going to get to that question until forever. All right. Brendan, need to flex one. Kelsey or Braylon Allen? It's a good question. It's a good question. You heard me talking about Braylon Allen, and I'm really wondering what his real workload is because now it's not a short week and it's not Brees Hall on the bike. I'm going to give Kelsey the edge here and one more week of it. But I got to see what I consider today the true test of Allen's workload. Thomas lost Adams and weak wide receiver. Need to start 2 out of 4. Addison, Sutton, Dobbs, or Leggett. Addison's back. No Jair Alexander. I like him. I like Romeo Dobbs as the second because if Love's limited, he's going to be thrown to his outside receiver a little bit more, I believe. All right, good there. All right. Jose, need 2 flexes. You got Ayuk, Jamo, Odunze, Shaheed. I'm going with Ayuk and Jamo here. Odunze, you got Allen coming back. Shaheed, the interior offensive line injuries are an issue. Tight end, Komet or Gesicki. I know Komet's been getting targets. With Allen back, I think that takes away from Komet, so I'm going to go with Gesicki there. Kyle, Mooney, Cooper. I'm going with Cooper. Cooper's looked great last week, and I love this week's matchup, especially if we're expecting no Max Crosby. That would make a massive difference there. And I'm going Mooney over Brian Thomas Jr. I think Mooney stylistically matches up better with those New Orleans corners. Like to get their hands on you, but Mooney a little more slippery, so I like that. All right, let's see what we got here. Chris Schultz, likely Conklin, Taysom Hill, or Higgins. Look, I like Schultz this week. The free safeties are like they're on a 4th string, and there's no Tank Dell. I know Tank Dell plays outside a lot, but I do think there's more targets to go around. Conklin, I think, will be the hot read this week because Denver's going to throw a lot of crazy blitzes, and Aaron Rodgers checks out as well as anybody in the business. It's real close between Conklin and Schultz. So again, tight ends are so dicey. I am giving Conklin the edge off of last week's game. And again, the more likelihood of the blitz coming. Ray, Najee or T. Higgins? Najee has a better floor in a very, very good matchup. T. Higgins could go off in this game. So your decision is, do you want the safety of Najee or do you want to swing for defensive? Because Higgins could have a real big game here. I could see that happening. I could see him flirting with 80 yards and a touchdown. But Najee's your floor play. Lane, I'm going to Olave here. I'm going to go with Olave. He's healthy enough to play. I'm going to go with him there. Jay-Z. So in a flex. So it looks like you mean Mike Evans. Evans hasn't seen a lot of targets, but the coach this week said he wanted him to get more looks. That's enough for me. Walker has a nasty match. I'm going to go Mike Evans. Evans is a good cornerback matchup too. Joseph, Mooney or Christian Watson? If I knew Jordan Love was 100%, I'd go with Watson. He would need to be able to get second reaction plays to get Watson probably to work against Minnesota. For that reason, I'm going with Mooney. Mahomes or Hurts? I'm going with Hurts. Mahomes is a quarterback 2 right now, and he's been since the middle of last year. So until he shows he's a quarterback 1 again, I can't treat him like one. Peter, Hubbard, Walker, London, Deontay. Hubbard, because of super easy matchup. Oh man, I don't want to tell you to start two Panthers, but Deontay's your next best play. I'm gonna go with London though. Let's go with London over Deontay. I don't like the matchup so much for London, but they do get him inside a little bit, 28% of the time they get him inside. I think that helps. Red zone option. Walker is a nasty matchup. The best plays are Hubbard and Deontay. Just putting in two Panthers just fundamentally doesn't sound right. And I'll go with London, who is the star player who hasn't put up star numbers. I'll go with him as a second one there. All right, next one. We got AJ Brown out, pick two, Garrett Wilson, McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Ayuk. Um, Again, Ayuk has the Avengers back with him this week, which will help him. 10 targets last week. He should be okay. I like the matchup against New England, even if it's Gonzalez. Ayuk is such a technician. It's not the same. I'm going to go with Ayuk there. I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson for floor here, and I do trust him over Garrett Wilson this week. Garrett Wilson's your boom bust play. He has a tough matchup with a lot of Surtain, but he is a superstar. So if you can't stomach keeping a superstar on your bench Deontay Johnson. Give Ayuk coming off of 10 targets another roll. G Money, half PPR, half points per first down. Myers or Steele. Kareem Hunt in the mix worries me. Even if he takes 5 touches, those all come away from Steele. I think P. Ryan's actually better than Steele. That's my opinion. It could be wrong, but he got some run last week. I'm going to give Myers the edge here. I don't like the matchup, but I think there's going to be enough targets for him to have a floor here. All right, down forward punch. Jawan, I'm going with Monty. I have Monty in the top 12 or so, running backs like 14, and Seattle has a missing 4 of their front 7 guys, so that's going to be a big issue. I think they're going to run the ball. Juwan Jennings back to his old role because Debo and Kittle are back, so yeah, it's back to being a blocker most of the time for Jennings. Big Money Joe, running back, 2 receivers and a flex. Olave, McLaurin, Godwin, Garrett, Wilson, Najee, and Brian Robinson. All right, so love Godwin every week, the way he's deployed in this McVay style offense that Liam Cohen runs. Definitely got to go with him. Brian Robinson, great matchup. Should have a high floor. No Austin Eckler. I'm going to, even with the Hams. So here's your thing. Najee is a good floor. So Najee, if you want a floor play, you need 2 receivers, though. You need 4. So you know Najee and you need Olave. Go to Olave over McLaurin because I think the floor is going to be more stable. So I'd go, and I'd leave out Garrett and McLaurin. Impossible. Half PPR, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, flex. Cook, Kyron, Chuba. All right. So Cook and Chuba for volume and production are definitely in as running backs. And we'll probably come back to Kyron for your flex. Receivers, can't sit Jefferson. Kyron for volume will be your flex. Bears are a nasty matchup, but he's getting so much volume. It's king in fantasy football. And then your last one, I'm going to go with JSN. Is very close between Flowers, JSN, and Kirk, but all the man defense that Detroit plays, I think he has the opportunity to have a bigger game. Patrick, drop Ertz or Chase Brown for Leggett or Dobbs. If you have to drop one, running backs, at some point, Chase Brown's going to be real valuable to you. At some point, you're going to need a running back. So I would rather drop Ertz, and I would do it for Dobbs if I was doing it. Thomas, you start Dobbins or Walker? Dobbins is missing both tackles, and Kansas City's a very good defense. Walker has a nasty matchup, but he's a better player. They run some spread. I'm going to go with Walker. Shooks and Olave or Hill. I'm going with Olave here. I wish I could say Hill. I can't. Mike, JSN, Shakir, or JMO. JSN has the highest floor of this group. JMO could completely go off here. So if you want to swing for the big upside, it would be JMO. Otherwise, JSN, again, I just said a lot of man defense from Detroit. That works out well for him. And then you also got JMO, Dobbins, or Judy. We're going with JMO there. Komet, Ertz, or Conklin. I am going with Conklin. I think that Keenan Allen back cuts into Cole Komet's targets. So we're going Conklin there. Ertz is always a fine choice because he gets the ball. He gets the ball in this offense. Martin, Reed, Flowers, or DK? I'm going with DK here. Again, Detroit plays so much man. They really don't have a player to hang with them. I'm going to go with DK here. All are good plays. All are fantastic plays. I'm going to go with Yoshi Voss here. Coleman is just not enough consistency of work. Yoshi Boss as the 3 is going to see open space. I'm going Yoshi Boss. I wish Maters. I don't get that one. I don't know who the second one made. I'm not sure who Maters is. I'm sorry. Mike, I think I answered that for you already. Wishy, good morning to you as well. I'm going with Daniels over Hurts. I have Hurts ranked higher. I get it. But there's more potential for downside with Hurts in this game. Daniels is gonna has an easy matchup. So I'm gonna go with Daniels there. I have Hurts ranked higher because I have to. It's Jalen Hurts. Yeah, you can't responsibly rank him lower, but I would start Daniels over him. Jordan, full PPR, Evans, Olave, Hubbard, Jacobs. It's a good one, man. It's a very good one. Evans supposedly, per the head coach Todd Bowles, he wants him to get the ball more. It's squeaky wheel narrative from the head coach. I would kind of buy into that. It's an easier matchup for him too. I would go. Chuba has such an easy matchup, but he's Chuba Hubbard. He did it last year. I'm going to go with Evans and Hubbard here. Look, it's really hard to sit Jacobs, really hard to sit Olave, but he's less than 100%, and your other options are really good. I'm going to go with Evans and Hubbard here. Let me just see on questions how fast I got to go here. All right. Literally, I just got to answer the names at this point. I covered, I think, almost every one of these players in detail. So I'm sorry. I want to get your question. So it's a lot of, come on, I got to find where you're left off here. Here we go. Yeah, I'm just going to give the answer because we got 22 minutes and I got to bounce out. Arthur, Henry, Cook, Mason, Ayuk, and Godwin. You got to sit one. I would sit Henry. No, it's Derrick Henry. You guys put first names on here. I'm thinking Hunter Henry here. I would sit Ayuk in this group. Because he's limited to hamstring, I'd sit Irving. Chris, I would start Garrett Wilson. Rick, Jameson Williams, not in my mind, not close. Jennings back to his regular role. Steven, Steele, I would go Carson Steele here. Pickens or Wilson. I will go with Pickens here in an easy matchup. Geno or Justin Fields. Geno's playing at a high level. I like the amount of man they play in Detroit. I'm going to go Geno. Michael Wilson or Calvin Ridley. Ridley safer. I love Wilson. Love him this week. Hard to sit Ridley over him. Juwan Jennings, Jameson Williams. Juwan Jennings is back to his normal role this week. Sammy, Taylor, Cook, Achane are your running backs. Which two should you start to flex Marvin Harrison? Man, it's impossible to sit Taylor. It's a nasty matchup. Oh my God. Harrison has a cake matchup. I wish I had an answer for you. They're all must plays. If it's my team, I would sit Cook because he's the less talented of the 4 players, and that's all I'd base on. And maybe Baltimore. So I'd sit James Cook, but impossible question. Flex between Akers, Wilson, Dortch, and Dobbs. Dobbs is the safest floor. I think Michael Wilson has the highest upside. Jeff, Debo, go with Debo. He's on the field. Gesicki, you got to trust him to get a long play or a touchdown. Appreciate you, Jeff. Very nice comment. Oh, nice. And God, I'm glad you're listening. Thank you, Jeff. Joe, good morning to you as well. Shakir, Brian Thomas, White, Irving, Shaheed. Shakir for floor. Should go with Shakir for the floor here. Mooney or Dobbs or Atwell. Dobbs is the safest floor. Mooney has a little more upside, but more downside. Safe play is Dobbs. If you want to take a risk, then go Mooney. Atwell, if it wasn't against the Bears, I would say look at him, but the Bears are hard out. Debo, should I sit? Yeah, you have to sit. Like I said, Jennings should be back to his normal role. 1 to 3 targets and a lot of blocking. He's a great blocker. I know you hate to hear that, but he is phenomenal blocker. Chris, Saints, Packers, Titans D. I'd bet against Miami offense right now. Raiders are probably without Max Crosby. Colby. So to start, Pittman, Worthy, or Braylon Allen. I know he's terrible. I'm going with Pittman for the floor. Pittman's at least getting 3-4 catches a week. Shakir or Cooper? Cooper. Max Crosby should be out. He's doubtful. Scott. I gotta go Debo here. I imagine they're gonna play him. It's a tough call on that one. Tough call on that one. I'd go Debo. Zach Moss could do well, but I'm gonna go Debo. Too hard to sit him. Um, Good question, Enrique. Very, very close on this one. It's literally gonna be who gets. I think Conklin's a hot read. I'm going Conklin this week. Brees Hall and Monty and Marvin Harrison Godwin's your receivers. It looks like that was good. No question there. You got to sit one. You got to sit Jennings. He should be back to his regular role. Sleek, McLaurin, T, or Olave. I'm going to go with T. Higgins here. 90% of the snaps last week. I think they throw more. Olave, if he was 100%, I go with Olave, but I'll go with T. Higgins here. Eric, Wilson or Worthy? Wilson has a higher floor. Worthy has the boom bust potential if he breaks a long play, which he hasn't done since week one. Wilson safer. Randy, Myers and Tucker are both available. Myers, because when they're all healthy, Tucker's the fourth option in a team with a bad quarterback. Lex, Mason, Dobbins, Akers, Chase Brown, pick 2. I'm going to go Mason and Chase Brown, but if you think that the Texans are going to blow out the Jaguars, Akers will get garbage time work, in which case you play Akers over Chase Brown. Walter, Charbonnet or JSN? JSN, love his matchup. A lot of man defense here. Wishy. Oh, wow. I'm going to go with Braylon Allen here. It's a nasty matchup for Charbonnet. Higgins, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Reed has a higher floor, seems safer. Higgins has a great matchup, so he could go off here. Not that he will. Reed safe. If you want to swing for defense and take some risk, it'd be Higgins. Akers, Pickens, or Shakir, full PP. I'm going Pickens here. Pickens is a good matchup. I love his matchup this week. Lex, you've heard the caveat about Akers. If you think Houston blows him out, go with Akers. Otherwise, I think Dobbins is going to catch passes and be the better play. Izzy, 2-2. Monty, Jacobs, Hubbard, Flowers, London. I'm going with Monty, Hubbard, London, and Jacobs. I'm going to bench Flowers in this one. Kyle, good to see you. Jimmy, Shakir, I'm going with Shakir. I think Odunze may lose some targets with Allen back, Keenan Allen back. Kyle, Ford or ETN? I am going with ETN here. I think that he should see some catches and that should get him over. Ford's offensive line, they lost a guard too. It's been brutal there. Sean, Kirk, D-Hop, Akers, Odunze. I like Kirk back involved. I'll go with Kirk. Akers, I'm going to go with Pollard for sure. And again, you keep hearing the caveat on Akers. If you predict a Houston blowout, take Akers. Otherwise, just give me Dobbins for catches here. Dobbins or Odunze. I am going with Odunze here. I think Dobbins has a very nasty matchup and missing both tackles. Fields or Love. I'm going with Love here. Fields just hasn't been running for enough yardage. Romer. I'm going with Addison here. He should be fully healthy now. The other ankle was a high ankle preseason. That one's healthy now. The other one got hurt and he's healthy from that. I'm going to go with that. No Jair Alexander either. Jeff, Debo or Gesicki. I'm going with Debo. Here. Martin, Olave, Kirk, Shakir, JSN, pick 2. Kirk and JSN are the safest. I would consider playing Olave over Kirk if you, as long as you understand that maybe he could re-aggravate the injury. But in my lineup, I'm starting JSN and Olave. Kirk's close. Oh, thank you, Kyle. Yeah, if anybody hit the like and subscribe button, we always appreciate that. Ronaldo. Terry Ford he's okay, and McLaurin had 2 bad games before the big one. I'm going to give McLaurin an easy matchup, the edge here. Scott, Garrett Wilson's a floor play. He could score. He's got Aaron Rodgers. So we saw last week, perfectly placed pass. Wilson is more like I have him ranked well enough. I have him as reluctantly as my 12 wide receiver. He probably should have more like 18 or 19. I think he gets you wide receiver 2 numbers. This week. Mike, I am going with Christian Kirk in this group. I believe he has a higher floor of the group and an equivalent ceiling. Reynaldo, Dobbins, Steele, Akers, Mooney, and Ridley need a running back and a flex. close on these running backs. I think Steele's going to lose some work with Hunt back. Dobbins for a few catches, I think. I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with Ridley over Mooney. It's close. Because I don't think there's enough pressure for Murray to target the slot a ton. I'm going to go with Olave. Mason, Jacobs, Deontay, pick 2. Mason and Jacobs both should see volume and have great floors. They probably have a higher chance of scoring than Deontay. Deontay's a great choice this week. I'm going to go with the 2 running backs and the volume over them, though. I get it. It's a good question. I am going to go with Hurts because there are so many outs for Hurts. Even if he has a bad game, to get it done without his receivers. But I understand it's a good question. Geno's my quarterback 10. I do have him aggressively ranked. Just Hurts could do it in too many different ways. Love Caleb Williams matchup. Chicago is supposed to have some wind, per my meteorologist friend Dennis Michelson. I'm going to go with Darnold. Jair Alexander's out for Green Bay. I'm going with Daniels until Richardson shows me he could do something, which he hasn't done this year. McLaurin, John Brown. Good morning. I'm going to go JSN there. I think his floor is very high, and with all the man coverage they play there. Lane, I assume that means Myers. Okay, yeah. I'm going to go with Olave there. Cleveland's a tough matchup for Myers. Odunze or Jennings. Odunze. Jennings should be back to his normal role. Akers or Najee. Najee has a very good matchup. No, DeForest Buckner, the interior tackle for the Colts. Hubbard or Musk. I'm going with Hubbard. He should get way more volume, and the matchup is super, super, super easy. Wilson or Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is a higher floor. Wilson is more boom bust. Deontay Johnson is the safe one, though. But if you want to go for the boom bust, it would be Garrett Wilson. Shaheed, Allen, JSN, McConkey. I'm going with Smith and Jigba. If Shaheed didn't have those the interior linemen out, I'm gonna go with Braylon Allen as my number 2 there. But if you want to go boom bust, it's Shaheed. The boom bust play is Shaheed, but without those interior linemen, Carr might have much time to throw. Wilson or Akers. I like Michael Wilson this week. Oh, I'd sit Ramondre. I play Ramondre. Wait, I don't know how you mean this. Ramondre's 1, Wilson's 2, Akers is 3. There, that's better. Super chat question, it looks like. Tom, I don't see a question on it, Tom. I'm sorry. I say thank you for I don't see a question here. I will get to it if it's on here, but I'm sorry, I don't see a question with it. All right. Lockett or Ridley? I'm going with Ridley here. I'm going with Shakir. Bears are a tough matchup. Jefferson, Chase, Rice. Since Debo's not 100%, I'd sit Debo. Fields or Smith? I'm going with Geno Smith here. J-Mo, Pittman, Waddle, D-Hop, Jennings, pick 2. I'm going with J-Mo, and as bad as Pittman has been, his floor is probably better than the others. I'm going to go J-Mo. JSN, Myers, or Dobbins. I'm sitting Dobbins from this group. Kirk or ETN? That's too close to call, right? I'm going to go with ETN for volume. I love Kirk this week. Olave or Shaheed? Yeah, I'm going with Olave. Braylon Allen, maybe, or Kenneth Walker. If that's Braylon Allen, I'm going with Kenneth Walker over him. Steele or McConkey? I'm going to go with, I think Steele has a better floor. I'm going to go with Steele. I'm going to go with Lockett in that one. Matt. Good morning, Steve. J-Mo, Higgins, Metcalf, Deontay, Garrett. Wow. You got a loaded team. I'm going to go with Higgins, Metcalf. The third one is Deontay Johnson for floor. If you want to go boom bust, Garrett Wilson. Jameson Williams can outscore them all, but the other players are just too safe to trust. I'm going to go ETN over Ford. Oh, man. That's a tough one. Chuba has such an easy matchup in volume. I really hate to say it, but just to bet a great player like Ramondre, I'm going to go Chuba. McLaurin, George. Ricardo, I'm going to go with Love here. It's pretty even. Brennan, who are you starting to flex? Jacobs or Ridley? Jacobs for preferred floor. Jacobs or Ridley? Oh, you just asked me that. All right, you asked the chat for help, so we're good there. Mo going with JSN over Myers. Oh my gosh, Logan, is the site down? Oh my gosh, I hope it's back on. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Mooney or Jennings? Mooney. I think Jennings goes back to his normal role. Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson? Look, as great as Jaden Daniels has been, I can't sit Lamar. I'm gonna go with Lamar. If you think that Houston's gonna blow out Jacksonville, go Akers. Otherwise, I'm gonna go Dobbins. Which one's healthier, right? Oh my god. I'm gonna go with White because he probably catches some passes. Oh, those are I asked him about the Roto site. Again, deepest apology. I have no idea, but I have nothing I can do on that end. I am so sorry. I feel terrible if our site. I probably got. I don't know. I can't even comment on it. Higgins or Carr? Got to go with Higgins there, John. Sutton, Yoshi, Voss, or Pierce? Oh man, as bad as the Sutton's matchup is, I'm going Sutton. Dirty Mike, Debo, Robinson. Brian Robinson is the safest play. Debo has more ceiling. So if you got to swing for the fence, go Debo. Otherwise, Robinson, great matchup. Jefferson and Addison are must plays. Naylor will see 4 or less targets. Philly, I'd love to see Darnold go for 300 yards. Yeah, Akers may technically start, but remember, Ogundwale saw more snaps last week, and JJ Taylor saw a series. So just don't make the assumption that it's the Cam Akers show. We are going with Mooney and Moss there, Laura and Jim Cooperman. David, Robinson. Oh my gosh, that's gonna. You guys gotta give me first names if you mean more than one. Montgomery at flex, Mixon on the bench. Montgomery's a must start. Brian Robinson's a must start. I don't know how to answer this. I'd rate these receivers: Evans, Higgins, and Kirk. Olave, because Jennings goes back to his normal role today. Charlene, good morning. Good to see you. I'm on Wednesday mornings at 11 Eastern and Monday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you come into those shows, love to see you there. Olave, okay, there we go. Henry, Jacobs, or Akers, you need one. I'm going with the big dog. Go Derrick Henry. Oh man, I'm going with James Conner. I love Robinson's matchup, but Conner is a better one. No, you're in good shape. Joe, Kamara strong. Yeah, I mean, he's Alvin Kamara. He could catch 12 passes, right? So, I mean, he should be fine. I'm not worried about the limited practice. I think everybody's dinged up and he's getting a lot of work. I'm going with Olave, Shakir, Chuba at flex. Chuba's the safest. Olave has more potential for upside, but Chuba is safest. If Olave's nicked up, I would probably just say Chuba and call it a day. Pick 2, JSN, Pickens, Olave, and Najee. I would go with Pickens and Pickens and Najee for floor. That's full PPR. But he's going to get a lot of work and easy matchup. If you want to go boom bust, the second receiver, I would go JSN. Olave, because of the injury, you have such other good options, not worth taking a chance. All right. If it's an emergency for Roshan Johnson, I'm guessing he gets about 40 yards if they give him the work he should get. And that'd be it. Hey, Josh, good to see you. All right, excellent on that. Anna, DK, JSN, Reed, and Jennings. I'm going DK and Reed for 2, but I think JSN is more upside than Reed, but Reed has a very safe high floor. So DK and Reed. Fields or Purdy. Purdy has a higher floor. I would trust him even in a tougher matchup. Fields is a little more boom bust. He hasn't really broken the long run yet. Let me see on questions. Oh man, I got 4 minutes. I'm not going to get through all of these. I'm sorry for those. I'm going to try. These guys be super fast, many as I can get through. We are going Love over Darnold and Walker over Shaheed. We are going Spears over Patterson. We are going Michael Wilson. We are going Chuba's the safest play here. We are going Brian Robinson for floor, Debo for boom bust. I'm going with the Houston defense here. No, make that the KC defense. I am going with Mike Evans. David, I'm glad you're a RotoWire subscriber. Thank you for that. JMO, we're going. DJ has a floor, but JMO has a huge ceiling this week, so base it on that. But you got the floor play, it's DJ Moore. I'm going with Jacobs here. Mindy, Ertz doesn't have enough ceiling for make me to sit Kelsey. It's a great question, but I'm going to go with Kelsey for that reason. I'm going with Gino over Darnold slightly. Allen, JSN. I'm going with JSN. Going with Olave here, a Trippy. Gian, I'm going with Ayuk in this one. Let's see, Dodson, Worthy, Yoshi Boss, Watson. I am going to go with Watson for floor, but Worthy for boom bust. I'm going with Amari. I'm going with Olave one. I'm going with Love. Olave. Shakir. I'm going with Amari. Both have upside here. Going with ETN and Walker. Worthy is your boom bust play. Down should have a decent somewhat floor. So, make it Worthy. The floors are even. The floors are even. Going with Kincaid. Going with Conklin. Should be a hot read against a lot of blitz this week. Oh, I got some super chat questions. Let's see what he got here. And I got to bounce out here and then after these. Joseph, Diggs, Ridley, Dobbins, Odunze need a receiver and a flex. Diggs is in a great spot this week. You should see a lot of room in the middle of the field. Bad matchup for Dobbins. I think Odunze is going to lose some targets because of Allen back. So I'm going to go with Ridley as a 2 there. And then Juan, we're going with Hubbard is the safest play. The boom bust is Olave, but Hubbard is very reliable with a probably good ceiling. Tom, I see you put in, but I didn't see any question. I'm going to see if I can find a question from you in here, and then I got to bounce out. And I'm sorry if I did not get to your question, but I do have to get ready for work before kickoff. And whose name I'm looking for Tom. See if I can find Tom. If I can find your name in here, Tom Wallace, I will answer any question you have. For those of you who need to get to the front of the line in the future, the super chat is the way to get there. I apologize. Start answering these faster. Then Tom, here you go. Pollard or London? Tom, I'm going to go with London here. They both should have good floors. London doesn't have a great matchup. I would go with London for the reason of he has, I think, more upside. Pollard is in a really good spot here. Let me see if you have any other question here, Tom. Okay, and again, I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's questions. I do my best in an hour and 45, but next week I will try to go faster through these. Good luck, everybody. Best of luck. And you ever need to DM me a question on the X at Jim Coventry, or I should say, at me, or how you call that, message me. Saturdays, Fridays, Saturdays are best. You can throw those there too. I can definitely help you with that. All right, thanks everybody. I have to get rolling. I will see you next week. Sorry if I did not answer your question. I'll do better next time.